Hey everybody, welcome back for another Runnin Thought podcast. It's been a little bit. I wanted to get one of these out before it became a long time in between episodes. Not a whole lot has been going on. Still running Beach Road pretty consistently. I have not been back up to investigate the waterfalls, and nobody's called me back from DLNR. So big shout out to DLNR for not returning phone calls. Anyways, I'm pretty sure that the phone call is probably going to go something like, no, you can't go up there anymore. But maybe that's just the pessimist in me. So because I cannot go up there, of course, I've been doing my daily runs in Lower Puna along Beach Road, and that's been interesting, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. I had a chance to go to Power Lines, and so for anybody that's not familiar, Power Lines is a trail that may only exist in my imagination, but it's part of Pu'u'o Trail, or it connects up to Pu'u'o Trail, or it may very well just be Pu'u'o Trail. But I've always known them as two separate trails that meet up about 4 miles in either trail that you decide to start off on. So usually I'll drive up towards Mauna Kea and I'll park at the Pu'u'o trailhead, and then I'll run/walk in that way. But this time there were so many cars parked at that location. Hang on, I'm going to adjust this mic real quick. Whoa, sorry about that noise. That was one of the springs on the mic boom. High quality item here. But anyways, so too many cars were at Pu'u'o Trailhead. So I backtracked and I parked at Power Lines, and there were plenty of cars parked there too, but I could at least find a place to put my truck where it wasn't going to get hit or be in somebody's way. So I parked at that location, and honestly, I was thinking that it would be easier just to run Power Lines out to like this kind of central point where that trail meets up with so Power Lines is actually just a road. It's an old road, 4x4 road that goes next to where a row of power poles used to be, but I guess they've rerouted those. They've cut them. You can still see the stumps of the power poles, but that's all that's left. And this 4x4 road runs right alongside that line of stumps, if you will. So it's not really a trail per se. It's much wider than that. But I was thinking that it would be easier because I misremembered, as I often do, the terrain. So I'm going to adjust this mic one more time. I misremember the terrain as being easier than it actually was. So I got going, and I remembered it as, kind of the typical like dried lava field with kind of rough and hard, but areas of smooth lava, and then some areas of like gravel. I had remembered it as mostly like a gravel road. Incorrect. So it was kind of funny. As I'm running it, I realized that way was actually more difficult than just going the other way, which if you go through Pu'u'o, that trail, it kind of goes through, it is kind of a single, or it is a single track, and it just goes through, rocks and grassy fields. There's little like forests that are just in the middle of this huge lava field. So you run through lava field, you'll get to a little forest, you run through that. It takes, like maybe a minute or two to get through these little forests, and then you're back out on lava field. And then the whole time you can look over and you can see Mauna Loa, or you can look back and see Mauna Kea. I don't know about the whole time, but most of the time you can see both of those. And it's weird to see them both from different angles because they look different from far away or from near, or different positions, different vantage points. But anyways, that one, I just was thinking, maybe it's best just to take the Power Lines road, because I had remembered that as just what I said, like varying terrain and, just a little bit more to deal with than a gravel road, right? So I don't know why that got in my head. That it's been a while since I had been out on either of these trails, but it definitely was not that. It was a lot of loose rocks, and so I had to get back in sync with that kind of terrain, because, like I said, I've been running on Beach Road, and about the depth of the terrain that I've been experiencing there is where pine needles or dirt has accumulated on the median, or not the medium, is that right? Median? Yeah, the side of the road. And so sometimes that'll be a little bit softer than just running on the asphalt, but it's nowhere near as gnarly as Power Lines. And so, that trail actually, it's also varying terrain, and you do also go through little forests on that too. So I recommend both of those. There's nothing wrong with either one. It was just on that particular day, I was looking for kind of like a quick out and back, get some distance, but kind of make it quick. But it was still nice. I mean, even though it was rough, but I remembered thinking as I'm going across like all these loose rocks, and at one point towards the end of the run, I was actually going back towards my truck, and I got to the part where there's just tons of loose rocks, not gravel. These are rocks about the size of your fist or bigger, and they're just kind of all loose and shoved together, and you don't really know, like when you're putting your foot down, if those rocks are going to be stable, or if it's going to cave in, or if it's going to kick out from underneath you or whatever. So kind of interesting. But on the way back to the truck, I ended up punting one. Oh my gosh, the agony. My toe hurt for about 24 hours. It's better now, but my goodness. Just punted that thing. And it's funny how we tend to forget, how bad that hurts. But I mean, man, like stub your toe on a piece of lava rock. Ugh, it was gross. Like it just hurt. It was that it felt like my toe bone was shattered. Like I had shattered the tarsal or metatarsal or whatever. But anyways, I remember thinking on the way out over basically the same patch of loose rocks the size of my fist or bigger. This is why I'm glad that I don't invite people to run with me, and then this is why I'm glad when I do invite people to run with me, they never come. So, in case you're wondering, running is, excuse me, sorry, running is probably one of the loneliest hobbies that you can have. I'm sure there's lonelier ones, but when you start asking your friends if they want to go run, they just drop off, like out of contact. You get ghosted. Nobody wants to hang out with you. Like even if you ask friends, like, do you want to ride bike while I run, or do you want to hike and then I'll just circle back or whatever? I'm just like, no, you can totally have all that to yourself. So I'm kind of glad, because I remember starting off on trails and thinking, oh, well, I can run a marathon. I can definitely handle trails, but it's not the same thing for sure. There's a lot of pieces to constantly be aware of. Matter of fact, I'll probably post something later. I've got the idea in my head and I took the pictures for it, but I have not made time to put anything up on the soapbox about it. But so there's what most people would think a runner sees, and that's or a trail runner, and so that is all the beautiful scenery and these scenic vistas in 360, but what we actually see, if we're smart, are just rocks in the trail in our feet most of the time. It's so weird. Whenever I'll occasionally stop to just walk on trails that I run often, and it's amazing how much different they seem compared to what I remember them as. Case in point, Power Lines Trail. So I only remember usually what's under my feet, and I don't really get the opportunity to look around much. So it's kind of nice to like stop and walk sometimes, not for long, but just to kind of look around, see what you're actually running past, because there's a lot of things that are just ignored, so through self-preservation, because you hear all kinds of noises on either side of the trail sometimes, and you just have to keep chugging along for your own sanity. But there's also a lot of neat sights, and it's good to stop and take all that stuff in, and kind of not lose sight of the fact that you're surrounded by nature, and also from a safety standpoint too. It's good to kind of look around, look at the weather, see what the clouds are doing. So yeah, and I forgot where my train of logic was going. So yeah, but all in all, a good experience on Power Lines. It was nice to kind of get out and do something a little bit different. That having kind of like an old standby trail, like a go-to, something close is great, because you stay consistent, because it's proximal and it's, easy to get to, and it's easy to make it a pattern. So I recommend that for sure. If you've got somewhere close that you like to go or that you can go, and you feel relatively safe, and it's got a good, a fair amount of distance, so you're not going to get bored. And if you can vary up your routes, and I know I'm making a big list of attributes. It doesn't have to have all those things, but if you got something that's close, it's good. Use it. It's way better than being on a treadmill as far as I'm concerned. But, the thing about it is you get used to seeing those sights and hearing the sounds and smelling the smells of like a particular area. It's nice to branch out and do something else. And so, speaking of hearing the sounds, one thing about a lot of places on Hawaii Island, I can't really speak to the others, but I'm sure it's probably similar. Hawaii Island, a lot of times, or not a lot of times, when you get out, you don't even have to go that far, but if you go to somewhere like Volcanoes National Park, or if you go to the trails that I was on and go up to Mauna Kea or Mauna Loa, one of the first things that you're going to notice when you get out of the vehicle is how quiet it is. I mean, it's so quiet. There's no distraction. You may hear the wind blowing, but it's just an entire absence of noise. So it's a real good place to just kind of get inside your own mind and, just kind of detach from reality a little bit and kind of just be in the moment, or, just be present right then and there. Just so nice to have that break, because we don't realize all the things that we're bombarded with day in and day out. Like, we're surrounded with all kinds of alarms and noises and stimuli, and it's good to just break away from all of that. And so I think I mentioned before, I don't even really like to take a bunch of pictures when I'm on runs anymore, or just in general. I've done a little bit more now that I'm kind of trying to post stuff to the soapbox, but there's a lot that I don't take pictures of. I used to try to take pictures of everything. I was, nothing against it, but I was one of those people that, like, if I didn't take a picture of it, it was like it didn't mean anything. But I think it's good to have a lot of mental pictures of things, right? Just kind of have some moments that you can remember for a good long while and that are just yours. You know what I mean? It used to be that, speaking only for myself, but I'm sure that most people are in a similar situation. It used to be that, taking so many pictures, you would never look at them. Like, they would just go into cloud storage or into your phone, never to be looked at again, and then eventually deleted or whatever. And so now most of the photo apps, so I've got OneDrive, and it'll send reminders like, this is you on this day, last year and the year before that and the year before that, or whatever. Like, it'll send me little reminders. So I was recently going through a bunch of photos, just looking for a few interesting ones to put up on one of my other websites, and was just looking at a bunch of photos, and I'm glad that I have those. I'm glad that I was able to look at some of those again because it reminded me, and I did remember, you know, time and place that a lot of those were taken, and some of them I didn't, which was kind of weird. It's a sign, I think, that I'm getting older. There was one in particular of peacocks standing in front of a green gate, and I could not remember where that gate was. I was thinking that it was maybe up towards Mauna Loa, but it was a big mystery. I believe that it was actually taken on Beach Road somewhere. That's my guess, but I can't say 100%. But anyways, I've gone so far off of whatever it was I was trying to talk about. So yeah, pictures. I try to not have distractions. Oh yeah, that's what it was. So, you know, you got this beautiful absence of noise, and then I don't like to stop every 5 minutes to take a picture of the thing. And so it's a great problem to have. We definitely have it here in Hawaii. There's so much stuff that will make you want to take pictures. I mean, most of the sunrises and sunsets are picture worthy. Most of the scenery is picture worthy. Like, even if you've lived here, so there is kind of a point where you start to take things for granted, but still I'm dumbfounded by places that I pass every day when I really pay attention to the terrain and the vegetation. Just beautiful. Beautiful things are abundant on this island in particular. And even, you know, when we lived in Decatur, the trails that I would run there in Conyers or the Arabia Mountain, the path system, or, you know, up in North Georgia, running over Johns Mountain, or over what was the other place called? Sorry, I'm on the verge of making enemies now. Like Fort Mountain, Grassy Mountain, the area back up in there. You know, there's a lot of beautiful places in the world. It's good to just kind of be in the moment, like when you're in there, and just take that in. No need to take pictures of everything. Maybe a couple, you know, just for posterity, but just kind of be in the moment. Don't interrupt your run and stuff, too. That's the biggest thing. If you got momentum going, just keep going. Anyways, end of that rant. So that was a good one. I think I already said that. That was a good break from the usual. And so I don't think I went anywhere else too crazy. I think the rest of my runs have all been on Beach Road, which has been fine. It's actually been pretty interesting. I can't tell you the specific days that I saw any of these things. Oh, wait, before I get into that, I wanted to say, too, running on the loose rocks and just uneven terrain, and very dangerous if you fell on any of the trail up at power lines, or really anywhere in Hawaii. The rock is all pretty sharp and pretty hard. So you're definitely going to get cut up. But oh, sorry, my dog is upset. But what I had to remember was how to balance, kind of counterbalance, using my arms. And so a couple tips for anybody who is maybe just starting out with trail running. and is adjusting to uneven terrain and kind of not flat surfaces. And I'm not talking about like vertical. I'm just talking about, like uneven, loose rocks, that kind of thing. The number one tip that I have for you is you have to learn how to pick up your feet, and you gotta pick them up high. So most running form instructors will, I say most, it's like I've had so many running form instructors. I have actually had one that my wife actually got a session with a running form coach in Japan, so that was interesting, and it was helpful. I still do some of the stuff that he told me to do. I can't do all of it because I'm just kind of set in my ways on some of the posture and everything. But yeah, so I have in fact had one running form coach, but both I'm sure in my mind, I'm sure that most would tell you anyways, even if you're running on a perfectly smooth track, that part of the dynamics, part of your body movement should be the lifting of your knees, lifting up your feet and not doing the shuffle. And so there's probably more than two reasons for that, but the two that I can think of is, number one, if you're shuffling, you're actually taking more steps, right? And so you are using those muscles more than you absolutely need to, right? So take big high steps, not a caricature of a runner, but take higher steps, like put some effort into it. Like you can't go out on the trail and just be a jogger. You can, but you're probably going to trip and fall. So pick those feet up. I try to land and do all of my initial contact with the forefoot. So pick your feet up is the first tip. And then the second tip, what was the second tip? Now I can't remember what yeah, your arms. Duh. So pick your feet up and then also use your arms kind of like a kangaroo uses their tail to kind of counterbalance them while they hop around and apparently beat each other up. Don't beat anybody up, but do use your arms to kind of steady yourself. I mean, this is not anything too, revolutionary that I'm saying. I'm sure most people intuitively would use their arms to balance themselves. But so what I'm actually talking about is when you get on this uneven terrain, you actually just keep your arms kind of out. Okay, so you're not in the movement, like you're not moving your arms forward and back like you typically do when you're just running at a steady pace on the road. You've actually got your arms out, and so they can move forward and back, but more so they're out to kind of steady you, and they're out to kind of already be somewhat deployed in case you do take a spill and start going flat on your face. You've already got your arms out to stop you. And so I have had that actually happen. I've never seriously, knock on wood, hurt myself, but I've taken ridiculous spills. Not many, just a couple times, but just at the weirdest places. And I would have never expected to have fallen at these places. I was actually going up a hill. How do you fall flat on your face going up a hill, right? Most people would do that going down. I mean, I'm glad I did it going up, because going down seems like the outcome would be way worse. But yeah, so you just never know. If you're going if you're going over unsteady terrain, keep your arms out and then pick your feet up to avoid roots and rocks and whatever else. Snakes for some people. Centipedes, I guess, if you live in Hawaii. That's one thing I forgot to mention last time. We don't have snakes for the most part. And I read up on the brown tree snake thing. And so apparently I didn't read a whole lot, so don't be expecting too much more information than what I gave last time. But so apparently they introduced the brown tree snake to actually train dogs to sniff out the brown tree snake, because I guess there was like a wild population, and they introduce more briefly. They may not even still be doing this, because the article I read was from 2018. So they introduced some brown tree snakes in order to train dogs to sniff them out, because on the Hawaiian Islands there's a whole lot of species of birds, and there are small mammals, and if there were snakes, I think most all of that would be decimated. And plus that would be scary if you're running around and there's brown tree snakes everywhere. But yeah, so that's where that came from, and probably the likelihood of ever running into one of those is very slim on Hawaii. But once again, I've gotten off task. Yeah, and so now shifting gears all the way back into talking about the sights and sounds of Beach Road. So for the most part, it has been nice. There's been a lot more vehicles on that road. Excuse me. It's not that the not shut down, the stay at home. It's not that that's been lifted or even loosened, to my knowledge. But I think it's just been so long that people are trying to get out now. And so I've seen a lot more vehicles on Beach Road. There's actually been a lot more broken down vehicles. Matter of fact, there was one in the middle of the road on jacks, like on floor jacks yesterday. I had to kind of go around the thing because it was parked sideways in the road when I was driving out to go back home. But the weird, like not weird, but the thing that sticks out the most in my mind, and I've got, a couple of Beach Road stories, but I was going back to my truck and I was almost there and it was getting dark. So this was around 6, probably like 6:30, 6:40, something like that in the evening time. And I was almost back to my truck. I probably had like another quarter, half mile to go. And I'm going past this one house where, so there's one house on the opposite side of the road where these dogs always bark at me every time I go past, and they've never run out or anything. So I've learned just to, it's okay. Let them bark. There's nothing coming. And then there's a house across the street where I've heard dogs before, but not really barking, just, doing dog stuff and making dog noises. Well, I ran past that house and I was running up kind of like the last big hill, and I heard a dog bark behind me. And that's the first that I had heard any noise, was just this dog barks behind me. And it was like that kind of bark where you know that something's chasing you. And so I turned around, and if there was one dog, there was like 7 dogs standing behind me in the road. And they all had that kind of pensive stance, like, like they were going to do something. But all of them were, sorry, the cuckoo clock's going off. All of them they looked like little good boys, is what they looked like. But they didn't have collars, so I suspect that they were either a feral pack of dogs, or just the owner didn't have collars on them or whatever. They just run around, which is not totally out of the question for that area. But yeah, so they ended up not chasing me. But man, I didn't even realize that there was like 7 dogs behind me, or more, or maybe a little less. I don't remember, but it was a lot. It was a significant amount of dogs to just be there and be silent, and me not know about it. And so therein lies the irony, because usually I'm pretty on top of what all kind of animals are around me. And so that was one, I guess, kind of cool and weird thing that happened. The dogs let me pass with no bites. Good on them. Thank you, dogs. And then while I'm still thinking about it, I think this was the same day. Matter of fact, this may have been yesterday. I saw a pig standing on the side of the road, and then I noticed a van coming up the road. So this wild pig waits for the van to go by. Like, they knew the drill, which is kind of amusing. The van goes by, and the pig kind of trots across the road and then stops on the other side of the road. And then as I got up closer, I just kind of made some noise, because I usually like to know if they're spooked or if they're going to stand their ground. So 10 times out of 10, they've always run away whenever I make noise. So, except for the one that was dying that one day. They tried to run away, but they couldn't. They were dying, or it was dying. But anyways, so this one was very much alive and clever enough to not go when the white van was coming down the road. Waited until after it was gone and then crossed over. So as I got closer, I made a little noise, and then it ran off down into the jungle. Talking about stopping and looking around. So crazy. If you're on Beach Road, or if you're anywhere on a trail in the middle of a forest or jungle in Hawaii, look to your left or right and just imagine if the trail you're on was not there and you had to go through that forest or that jungle in order to get back to safety. Oh my goodness. The growth is so thick. And that's one thing that I did notice over the last week. And I mean, I've noticed it before, but I took some time, to look left and right and just look down through there. And it's so dense, you can't see through it. I can't see how you would navigate through it. And also, the thing about it is, if you've ever seen the movie Predator, not the one with Danny Glover when they're in the city or whatever. I'm talking about the one with Schwarzenegger, and they're in the middle of the jungle. Like, that jungle is what it looks like running down Beach Road. It's on either side. It's predator jungle. And so I'm hearing sounds and I'm looking over and I'm not seeing stuff. And I'm not saying, but I'm saying, you know, Predator had invisible mode. So, I mean, you can do what you will with that information. I'm just, putting it out there. There are weird noises that come from either side, and it looks just like Predator Jungle. So, just saying. I hope Predator is not real. I'm pretty sure it's not. But if he is, or if they are, they definitely visit Beach Road. Let's see what else. I saw a lady. I think this was a different person. This seemed. I don't know because I don't really like super focus on people that I see. But I think this was a girl on a horse. I think the last person I saw was like an older lady on a horse. It may or may not have been the same horse, but I saw what I think was a girl on a horse, and so that was cool. And the dog was kind of like following behind him, so that was neat. What else? Lots of garbage. Man, 2 thumbs down to everybody that's throwing their garbage on the side of the road. And that's not just down there, that's everywhere. It's so crappy because the transfer stations are still open, and all you got to do is just go to the nearest one and you can just throw your trash there. But people are throwing their stuff everywhere. So there was 2 particularly stinky bags that were thrown right in the middle of this little this trail. It's got these beautiful mangrove trees that kind of just taken over, and there's kind of a cutout in these mangroves, and the path goes down to a place called Mermaid Ponds. But somebody had thrown a couple of bags of just rancid, disgusting trash, like right at that little trailhead, and there's flies and stuff buzzing around everywhere. Just gross. And then, of course, there's all the cups and wrappers and stuff all on the side of the road, which sucks. Just, I've not ever understood that, why people just throw their stuff out the window. But, sorry, yawning. It's a little bit late. Speaking of late, and speaking of beautiful things, and how lucky everybody that lives in Hawaii is to live in Hawaii. Sometimes it's the simple things or not so simple things. I was taking the dogs out tonight, and it's been this way for the last several nights. So super clear outside, and here we don't have a lot of or any light pollution really. And so look up at the sky, you can see all the stars. Like I'm talking all of them, like layers. It's beautiful. And it reminded me of how much I miss going to the planetarium. Planetarium? Is it a planetarium? Imiloa. I think it's planetarium. Astronomy center? Astronomy. Yeah. It's not the astrology center. Don't confuse it with that. Astronomy center. I don't think it's a planetarium. I'm not sure what the distinction is between those two, but I think it's the astronomy center. But at any rate, I miss going there because dum-dums like me, I don't remember the constellations that well. I can remember the major ones, like Maui's fishhook, Scorpio, and all the ones that are connected to Orion. So the Taurus and the Pleiades and Orion, and then that's about it. There's actually more that are in that Orion um, sort of group of constellations. I know there's a dude sitting with a goat in his lap, but I can't remember what the name of it is. I think there's like a couple of dogs. Sirius, so like Sirius XM, um, they've got the dog on their logo, or they used to have that. Named probably after Sirius, the little constellation. Sirius, and I forgot the other dog's name, but Sirius, and now that's going to bug me. But yeah, at any rate, you can see all the stars, which is awesome. I can't take a picture of it. They don't turn out well. If I take a picture of it, you cannot see all the stars. So it's one of those things, like I was talking about, you just have to put it in your brain and make it a mental picture, a memory for yourself for later. I'm sure that they've either already got something or they'll come out with something eventually that will be able to take crystal clear pictures of the night sky. It'll be just like you were there. But I don't have that. My phone doesn't do well with stars, even if I put on night sight or whatever. So yeah, and then I'm trying to think, what else have I seen on Beach Road that's been interesting? Yeah, just the usual stuff. The lava flows. I'm always amazed when I get down to the 2018 lava flows, and they've built the road through. They've cut out and built the road through to connect back up, so you can go back up into Puna proper, or Pahoa. But yeah, besides that, you've got the fresh lava that kind of rolls over onto. It's not fresh. Like it's dried. It's a couple of years old, but it's rolled over onto the older lava, and then there's still heat. So when I pass the part where they cut into like the highest point of the 2018 flow, you can still feel heat coming off of that rock, and you can still see steam coming up pretty proximal to where that cutaway is. They had to cut away to make the surface even, so they could build the road through the lava flow portion. So if you're walking next to it, that thing's probably, I'm going off memory here, it's at least, it's over my height, we'll put it that way. I don't know if it's twice or 3 times my height, but it's pretty tall. But yeah, you've got heat coming off of it, and the lava's probably not that far down. I'm not a geologist, but I would say it's probably, in the grand scheme of things, it's probably pretty superficial to the surface. But yeah, so that's beautiful. And then you've still got some green where the lava mist. So you got the black, and then you got the green in the background. Of course, the sky has been gorgeous, blue and white clouds. I don't know what other color clouds could you have. I guess you could have gray, but all different shapes. More importantly, just all different shapes of clouds, just in layers. The wind's been nice. Yeah, all kinds of people. I actually saw more. So there's been more traffic for sure, but I actually saw more people on the road, just outside of cars, just walking or whatever, yesterday than actual cars. It was really quiet, so no cars at the usual spots, and more people out on the road. I think that's it. I don't think I've seen anything else too crazy on Beach Road. Things that are coming up. I'm planning to go on a run this weekend. I'm going to go up towards Honokaa to, I've got a friend from work and he lives up that way. And so I'm going to park at their house and then I guess I'm going to run kind of like an access road down to the highway and then run along the highway down a gulch and then back up and then get off the highway onto another access road and then run up to a cell tower. And so I'll post that map on the soapbox. It's not there right now. It's going to take me, maybe a day or so to post that up there, but I'm going to go run that, and I don't know exactly what the distance is. Like I say, I got to get in and figure it out. He sent me a map. It looks super interesting. I think it's it's over 2,000 feet elevation gain, so it's going to be that much in drop, and then you're multiplying that times 2 because it's a out and back type deal. I think he said that it was 8 miles, but I don't know. He said he wasn't sure, and I have not mapped it out yet, but I'm planning to go do that, and I may try to mess with that other trail that I was talking about too, the one where I couldn't figure out if it was on private property or not. I may try to go past that dairy, see if I can get to the trailhead. Pretty sure that's the way that you gotta go. And the sign's just worded weird, probably by design, to keep people out. But yep, that's all the plans I got. There was something I wanted to talk about. I don't know. There was something specifically I wanted to talk about on the podcast, but I can't remember what it was. I will say that I have been thinking about the folks that are out there in the world, and you're not feeling too great. There's a lot of uncertainty in your life right now. I'm thankful that I've still been able to work. I know a lot of people are not, and they just wish that their life could go back to normal. If you are out there, I'm not flattering myself. I know there's not that many people probably that listen to this podcast, but if you are, first of all, if you're listening, thank you. And second of all, if you're in that situation, one of the things I like to tell people is to look around them and just make note, because where you're at currently is not where you're going to be permanently. So everything changes. That's the one certainty in life. So everything will change. And just give it time, and there will be changes. So don't get down on the current situation. It stinks. There's a lot of uncertainty, for everybody, but just stay in the game. If you're listening to this and you're not running yet, I think that you should, or get something else, some other kind of activity with the emphasis on active. If you're walking, then walk. If you're rowing, then do your rowing. But the main thing, I think, get out as much as possible. Of course, still probably practice your, not probably, still practice your social distancing, but get out, don't stagnate inside four walls, and don't get out of your own head. You know what I mean? Don't agonize over this. There's a lot of things that you can't control, but it will change. Something will happen, and it will not be this way forever. So don't get too down. I was thinking, what brought that up was I was thinking about a colleague that I used to work with, and I won't say their name just out of respect for the family and the person, but I had a colleague, and I worked with that person on a Friday, and this was a long time ago. I won't say when or whatever, but I won't say when exactly, but I will say that I was still like in my 20s, like early 20s, like maybe 20. Yeah, we'll just say early 20s. But I had a colleague that was a smart person, and really nice to work with, and kind of a problem solver, like a go-to type person, so highly intelligent. But the person had bipolar disorder, and they stopped taking their meds on a Friday, and that was the Friday that I worked with them. And so there was all kinds of like strange things going on. They ended up getting sent home just out of concern for everybody's safety. And by Sunday, so I worked that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And by Sunday, that person was dead. They were deceased. And it was self-inflicted. So that got me thinking, that was terrible. And I still remember that. That person was not like a close friend. That was just an acquaintance. And I still remember that event like it was yesterday. It's still fresh in my mind. Matter of fact, I've got the newspaper clipping. I've never thrown that away. I keep it because that was kind of one of those things in life where I realized how fragile everything is, and how much. So I'm not trying to downplay this, and I don't mean this like it may sound, but how much, now I've even forgot what I was going to say, but so it was one of those times that made me realize like how unstable like I became after that, because that happened. Like here's a person that I'm talking to, and then like 2 days later they're completely gone. So there was some other details that made it kind of horrible just for everybody, but I'm not going to mention any of that, but yeah. So the point that I'm trying to make is was thinking about that and how much it affected my life. And this was somebody that I worked with, but I wasn't extremely close with. So if you're out there and you're thinking, man, this is terrible, and nobody cares or whatever, don't go down that road. Don't think like that. People care more than you know. Like I maybe didn't even realize how much I cared about this person, but yeah, it was definitely a shock, and I was definitely sad when that happened, and not superficial bandwagon sad. Like I was deeply disturbed and regretful that this had happened, that we lost this person. Because, like I say, really intelligent, go-to person, and yeah, yep. So just hang in there because people need you more than you know, and get out and running. I think is the best because that's what I do, and it doesn't cost a whole lot to be a runner versus other things that you could do. I got nothing against bikes or paddle boards or kayaks or anything like that, but good old running, man. If you're not injured, right, you can put on your shoes and your shorts and you can get out there. Well, I can. Some places you would have to put on like pants and coat and earmuffs and all that stuff. So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but yeah, the point being that it's not, you don't have to go too nuts. It's pretty easy it's accessible, attainable to most people. Running shoes and some shorts and whatever gear you need for warmth, and you're in the game. So whether you're doing a mile or you're doing 20 or more, get out there and maybe just get away from the four walls that you're confined by, or if you're on the opposite end of that and you're like a healthcare worker and you're just in chaos every day. So maybe I don't want to be too pie in the sky and say like, oh yeah, you should run and it'll solve all your problems. But if you're able to just detach for a little bit, even if you're on the treadmill or something, if you got the energy, it may be helpful just for your mental well-being, to kind of get some of that energy out in a constructive way. Yeah, but then I realized that people that are really dealing with the high incidence areas like New York and I guess the Southeast and Washington, those people, probably the last thing on their mind is, or even they probably don't have time to get out and take a run. So if you are somebody that's lucky enough to have that, then you should definitely do it for them, because they cannot. So yeah. But now I'm just I'm talking out of where, and I'm kind of on a tangent. So let me just stop that. I guess the last thing that I'll talk about, and then I'll just go ahead and close this up. But running with injuries. So it wasn't a mistake, but I partially blame myself for someone that is now injured slightly. I don't know the extent of this person's injury, but it's something with a rolled ankle or something like that. And so I remember having a lot of soft tissue injuries when I started out, or started back to running, and most of it was just from overuse, just trying to do things too fast, or too hard, too quickly, and not building up. So I I partially blame myself for this person's injury because I sent them the Audible link to check out David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me. And so if you've never experienced that, then number one, why? Number two, you need to go ahead and get that book or the audiobook. I would recommend the audiobook because it gives you more content than what the actual book has in it. There's kind of like interspersed between chapters. There's commentary from David Goggins and his ghostwriter, I guess, or his writer or whatever. But yeah, get that. It's extremely motivational. But the thing is, like, David Goggins is David Goggins, and most people are not him. So, and most people are not dealing with the kind of situation that he was dealing with. And so he was trying to get through his second or third attempt at buds. And I think he was at the point where if he did not get through that attempt, he was done forever. And so I don't want to give too many details away, but there were some hasty interventions on, broken limbs, and, Bud's training was completed with some pretty hurtful injuries that were kind of like rigged up with duct tape to get him through. So most of us are not trying to get through our final attempt at buds. And I would kindly say everybody doesn't have to be David Goggins. He is already David Goggins, and he's awesome. But speaking from experience, if you've got a tendon that's a little bit torn, running on it even harder or the same intensity or running longer on it is not going to make that thing better. It's just going to get worse. So do the proper rest. And if that means walking for you, then you should walk. But when I had those kind of injuries, I usually would have to just be in a boot that would immobilize the foot, keep it from torsion, twisting one way or the other, and usually for a couple weeks. Like, I'm thinking like 4 or 5 weeks, I was supposed to wear that thing. So I mean, that's the optimal situation, but there is the aspect of like wanting to get back out, and I would say just maybe play it by ear. I think that doctors know a lot, and I respect them, but sometimes when it comes to I'm making myself nauseous saying this. I'm not in any way qualified to make any kind of medical advice, but I will say that people usually know their bodies better than anyone else, right? So doctors included. I'm not saying don't take medical advice. I'm saying is you know yourself better. So if you feel like something's really, really wrong, then something's probably really, really wrong. If you feel like you can do a little bit of activity, then you can probably do a little bit of activity. Probably didn't, you probably have not given yourself any kind of stress fracture or like a completely torn ligament or tendon. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be walking or anything on it. But I'm not speaking directly to this person, by the way. I'm just saying in general, like if you have injuries, there's a fine line between not being too much of a baby about it and then also not overusing the affected area. So just play it by ear. But I will say that, rest is important. So if you're gonna get out and be active, you gotta definitely have a part of your day where you're immobilizing that thing and just letting it rest, right? Yeah, like don't do stand-up desk all day and be walking around at work the whole day and then go out and run 8 miles or whatever and then be on your feet for the rest of the night. Kind of get some time, cut out some hours where you're just kind of immobilizing that thing. Yeah. And then also just don't take my advice because I only know what works for me. I will say that I used to get a lot of soft tissue injuries, or actually I already said that. I used to get a lot of soft tissue injuries. Knock on wood, I don't get them anymore. A lot of it is just kind of that period of you're starting out. And so your body's not used to moving in a certain way. And so things get torn up. And so if you're reasonably young and reasonably healthy, you're probably not breaking yourself apart. You're just having sort of more or less growing pains, getting accustomed to being active, being a runner or running as an activity. So skirt that fine line between not being too active and not being too sedentary. Definitely give that thing some rest. They say the rest ice compression elevation. I would do some research and see if that's still recommended because I've heard conflicting information. I don't want to say one way or the other, but that's what I was always taught, like as a corpsman. That was a standard treatment for those type of injuries, rice, soft tissue, stuff like that. Definitely would always advise patients to do rice, but that may have changed now. I don't do anything for those type of injuries. If I get them now, they just have to run their course. And so I'm kind of just conflicting myself now. But I think that there's probably like an arc, there's a life cycle to a runner. There's probably that beginning part where you're starting out, you get lots of injuries, and then you go into like the top of the curve where you're like you're accustomed to everything and you don't get as many of those kind of like stress injuries or soft tissue injuries or whatever. And then probably as you age progressively, you get back into more and more like arthritic or soft tissue or whatever, injuries from falls or whatnot. But again, I'm rambling. I don't think that I've actually made one clear point in all of that advice. But yeah, just rest when you can. Still do activities. Don't go overboard. Don't think because you're feeling better. So that's one great piece of advice out of all of that. Don't think because you're feeling better that you can just go out and knock out 8 miles one day because you are walking fine the day before. Once you start feeling good, give it another couple of days, taking it easy, and then get back out and don't thrash your injury again. Like, let it heal, a little bit more and then get out. Yeah, I'm sure that if doctors listen to this podcast, they would be rolling their eyes right now. But I think that's all I'm going to say. I think I've said way too much already. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. And then hopefully I'll do another one after I get to go check out this, trail, for lack of a better word. I think it's a combination of access roads, the main highway, which I don't really like that part. And I don't advise anybody to run on roads with vehicular traffic, even though I do it every day down Beach Road. That's kind of a different, it's not, but it is kind of a different thing because it's kind of choked off. There's not that many vehicles that travel there, but the quality of vehicular travel, it definitely compensates for the lack of vehicles because everybody's running fast and it's dangerous. I don't prefer it, but it's a matter of being able to run a certain distance and have it be close to my house. So it's a convenience thing, but I don't super recommend running on roads. I don't think that it's good for your joints. Talk about injuries. Get off roads. That would be my first suggestion. You may get different types of injuries on trail, but I don't know. I've felt way better running on trail than I've ever felt running consistently on roads. Like my knees hurt more when I'm on roads all the time. You gotta find a trail or run on the side of the sidewalk or the side of the road where there's grass or some other kind of aggregate. What was my point? So this place that I'm thinking about going this weekend, part of it's on the highway, which I don't love. And then I think there's like a falling rock hazard as you go down through the gulch and back up. So that should be interesting. But hopefully I'll have a good story to tell after I do that. May do that on Saturday. I don't know. I'll just have to look at the weather. But yeah, that's it for this time. Stay healthy. Take care of yourself. Don't get down. Get outside and and just be well. And then hopefully I'll have an exciting episode on Saturday or Sunday to put up. But everybody take care.